Hey guys, it's Monday, January 30th, and this is Newswave. First bit of news today, guys, comes from the realm of Final Fantasy, in particular Final Fantasy XIV. And what's happening is, of course, the game has become more popular after they axed it, then re-released it after its initial kind of bad start with the original Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. Now, the game has become so popular that they're actually designing a TV show for Japan only for right now anyway, not any thoughts of the US, but in Japan they're actually going to have a show, an actual one on their version of TBS for people to watch that is all based around the Final Fantasy XIV MMO. And the show currently is actually about a family, mostly a father and son duo that began to grow closer by playing the game together. The show itself right now is called Final Fantasy XIV, Daddy of Light. I think that's a people were talking about how the translation might be a little off. It's supposed to be Final Fantasy XIV, Father of Light. And like I said, from what we can tell right now, it's going to air later on this year, I believe in April. They're going to actually have it so that you see like a drama between a father and son grow closer as they play Final Fantasy XIV. And this actually reminds me of a really funny commercial that Blizzard did a while ago for Legion, when World of Warcraft Legion came out, where they actually had a dad who was like a closet World of Warcraft fan and would blame it on his son when his son's mother found out and everything. It was pretty good series actually of commercials. Now the Father of Light, or Daddy of Light, if you want to call it that, TV show is only really using Final Fantasy XIV as a plot point, specifically for these two, the father and son, to kind of grow together throughout the series. But still, it's just something for Square to kind of put out there on TV at this point. It's on TBS in Japan, an actual mainstream TV station, and it's going to mostly be revolving around the Final Fantasy XIV game. I don't think you're going to see gameplay or anything. It'll just mostly be them talking about it. Occasional glimpses probably of the screen that they're playing, but we'll know more when it comes out. And it is set to premiere April 28th, again on their version of TBS over in Japan. And if you haven't heard or been left out of the loop, MadCatz is actually in some pretty serious trouble right now in terms of their corporation and actual growth overall. In fact, it looks like MadCatz is dying slowly right now. Recently, MadCatz has actually received a warning from the New York Stock Exchange just telling them that, hey, your stock's getting really low for value. We're probably going to remove you from the New York Stock Exchange unless you can start to build your stock value back up. Otherwise, they would have to consolidate their stock and pretty much exit the stock exchange altogether, cut investors, all that. And that's not good for a corporation that at one point was actually pretty strong. I mean, they designed a lot of controllers. Even if we didn't think they were the best, people still bought them. Peripherals. Now, they got into a lot of trouble recently when they really put kind of all their eggs in the Rock Band 4 basket. And this apparently raised tons of concerns about the company's ability to grow, because Rock Band 4 did not do well. It really didn't. That and Guitar Hero Live really struggled. And after that, this is before they had to put out like a big annual earnings report to show how much you made or lost. An actual CEO resigned right away, and this all happened in February 2016, so last year. But it's just been a very bad turn for MadCatz, and they're probably in some trouble right now. If they can't get their stock up, they will be removed from the New York Stock Exchange, and at that point it's just a slippery slope to eventually just dissolving the company. As of recording this video, MadCatz is currently trading at 15 cents per share, which is very low. They're getting close to that penny stock range, which is when New York Stock Exchange starts looking at the companies and removing them from the big New York Stock Exchange, because at that point you're becoming a penny stock, so you're not worth much. And over the weekend, they had 6,000 people who play Pokemon Sun and Moon removed for cheating. And this was a typical ban. A lot of this happens in other games, but in this case, a lot of people were actually hacking or cheating on Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, what that means is they can't go on and use the typical online functions of Pokemon Sun and Moon. Of course, this protects a lot of the people who are actually playing fairly and aren't using cheats to build level 100 Pokemon overnight or catching tons of most powerful Pokemon with legendaries and everything, and then trading them, or in that case, building a very stacked team that is unfair at the time. I'm sure you could also probably go in and affect stats and raise special attack or just defense and HP. And this is good because this actually shows Nintendo cares about the online service Pokemon Sun and Moon, which tells us that they'll probably care about their other online services as well, especially with the Switch. Also over the weekend, an EA community manager, he's verified to be a community manager, for some reason decided to tweet out a very interesting game that a lot of people are probably looking forward to or hoping is being made. And in this tweet that they put out, it says, I quote, #Skate4. Now, if you're not aware, skateboarding games have, they've had a rough go of it recently. Skate 3 was probably the last good skateboarding game, and even that, a lot of people didn't like the soundtrack too because it really didn't match up with skateboarding at all. Usually you have more rock music, stuff like that, and that had a lot of dubstep in it. And what happened was, after seeing this, the internet has pretty much exploded, hoping that Skate 4 is a reality. We pretty much knew that there probably would be a Skate 4 eventually. We've just been waiting for it because Skate 3 did sell well, became backwards compatible on the Xbox One recently. It did well on there. People are buying it up online now, and it's won several polls up to this point to be backwards compatible on the Xbox One, so the interest is there. But with games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 that came out that did not do well, that was kind of made a laughingstock and mockery, mostly because of the game-breaking bugs and the glitches. And once you get in that hole, it's so hard to get out of there, really it is, because you're selling your game for full price, but you're releasing a broken mess. Even if the core game is good, if it's buggy and just and terrible like that, game breaking, you're not going to sell well, and that's probably why we won't see a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 6 for a long time. But nothing else has been said about Skate 4. They just decided to tweet this out. I don't know if they just wanted to show EA that there's interest in it. Skate 4 would be great. Again, a lot of people are probably looking at that skateboard genre, and companies may want to stay away for now. We'll see. And earlier last week, Codemasters went ahead and announced Dirt 4 in this really cool looking trailer, and Dirt 3 was great, and they had other Dirt games as well. It's pretty good, like, rally racing game that's a lot of fun. I played a few of them. I didn't really get into the series too much, but I know there's a lot of big fans for the series. Now, this has been interesting kind of going forward because, of course, what's the one thing people are asking developers right now when they announce a game? Will it be on the Switch? And in a recent interview, Darren Hayward, who is senior game designer at Codemasters, was asked, hey, will that Dirt 4 game be on the Switch? Or... And in response to that, he went ahead and said, personally, I've got my Switch pre-ordered and I'm getting it day one. Obviously, at launch, Dirt 4 is not coming to the Switch. We'd already picked our platforms. We've nothing to announce right now, but I wouldn't rule it out. And from there, he went ahead and talked about, elaborated more about the Switch and Dirt 4 and if it would be a good match. And on there, he said, there are signs of more traditional games coming out for Switch with full controller support, like Skyrim, but would Dirt Rally or Dirt 4 work on a split Switch controller? I think we'd have to do quite a lot in terms of extra tweaks. There are not many inputs, so you'd have to have super simplified controls, and because of that, it may not be the ideal scenario for Dirt 4. That said, I could definitely see Nintendo Switch having some compelling racing experiences. While we did see Codemasters on Nintendo's big board of third-party developers, it doesn't look like there's any plans in the works right now for this new Dirt game. I kind of understand what he's saying, possibly about using like one Joy-Con controller. Maybe that's kind of affecting him. I'm not sure. He talks about the split controllers with the Joy-Cons. But it doesn't seem like he has any concerns about possibly the technical aspect behind porting it, like going to the Switch. A lot of other companies seem to have this weird thought that the Switch is too weak to run a lot of games. However, their senior game designer seems to have no qualms with using the Switch's Tegra processor as opposed to using an x86 processor with the Xbox One and the PS4. Will it come to the Switch? It's hard to say, but it does not seem like it's ruled out. Nintendo may go to Codemasters and say, hey, let's bring that Dirt 4 game over and put it on the Switch. Oh, and a quick update on Pillars of Eternity 2. We talked about it last time. I talked to you guys about it being crowdfunded, and I talked about how it might take a little while to crowdfund it. It crowdfunded in under 24 hours. That's very fast, obviously. It has a lot of fans wanted to see it. I just wanted to note that I think it was the $29 tier, you do actually get the game. So all they were really doing was pre-selling this game just to see if there's interest. Obviously, there's enough interest. People were even putting up to $1,000 in the pot to get this thing made, where you would even be in the credits, and you name a NPC and an item and all kinds of cool things. They're going to do physical copies you can get. There's going to be big collector's copies you can get. But yes, it was crowdfunded very fast. So yes, Pillars of Eternity 2 is coming, they said, in 2018. And there's been a lot of talk around load times with the Switch and the Wii U. Of course, the Wii U has some pretty bad load times sometimes. Like if you pick an app or a game from the menu, usually you see a black screen, especially with something like Smash Bros, for example. You see a black screen for quite a while. There was a Treehouse that was released recently, or it was a couple days ago, where they do show a little more in depth about them picking Breath of the Wild from the menu. This was on Nintendo Everything, for example, where they talked about this. It looked like it only took roughly 10 seconds for the Switch to go from its normal screen on like the UI. hit the button to go to Zelda Breath of the Wild, and then you go to Zelda Breath of the Wild's title screen. From there to there, about 10 seconds. That's actually pretty good, I think, because that means it's loading up the game into memory, it's loading the world, and then you hit start, and then you start loading your world in to get like your saved game and everything. But from the menu to the game in 10 seconds, that's actually really good. I just got done doing Final Fantasy 15 earlier, and it took forever to do anything. So 10 seconds for a game like Breath of the Wild to go from start to title screen, it's pretty good. If you're a fan like Shovel Knight, like I am, you might be happy to know that Nintendo has listed on their site now that the new Shovel Knight will be coming out in March 2017. And this is interesting because we have not heard anything else from there. We haven't seen any updates on their game maps that they keep putting out where they show which games are coming out when. I don't know if Shovel Knight that's just a tentative date for it. I kept hearing that Shovel Knight would be out in March or April. But it's interesting to note that we may see a digital version of Shovel Knight show up on the Switch in March, just to help bolster that lineup. It looks like it's going to be a really good game. The first one was very good, so keep an eye out on it. It's on its site right now. Right at the bottom, if you scroll down, it says March 2017 for Shovel Knight. And this last bit of news is kind of interesting. So if you have not heard, in the U.S., Trump has signed an executive order to ban immigration from certain countries, and one of them is actually badly affecting right now GDC, or the Game Developers Conference, that is next month. So over the next 90 days, immigration has been suspended for Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, which are mostly Muslim nations because Trump is just hell-bent on keeping any Muslims out of the United States. And so now what we're getting is GDC has Iran listed as a chapter, as an emerging country for GDC, which is one that's building up essentially. Now, any of the members from there that would then come to GDC are unable to do so. So GDC is, one, they're speaking out against the ban, and two, they're refunding and basically returning the money for those vouchers for those people who are coming to GDC from Iran that cannot now. There's even game developers in the United States that are afraid to leave because then they might not be able to come back if they're of Muslim descent or if they're visiting like Iran or something. The whole situation is really messed up right now. This isn't a political channel. I'm not going to get political, but the entire scenario is just stupid right now. And it's a shame that you can't leave the United States in fear of being able to get back in, or if you are a legitimate person who wants to come to GDC from Iran because you're signed up as their emerging country, you can't visit and you can't come talk to other game developers. That's kind of bad. I mean, if you really consider that, that's not a good thing. But the ban's for 90 days. Hopefully it's all worked out after then, because there's going to be other things taking place in the United States that I'm sure people from other countries want to come to, like E3, for example, and going forward. So I don't know. It's a mess here. I'll say that, guys. If you're not in the United States, it's a mess. That's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think about all the different stuff we talked about today, whether it be about the ban for Iran not being able to visit GDC, or maybe we'll talk about the Switch loading faster, or Dirt 4, maybe that's coming to the Switch. Shovel Knight, let me know if you're excited for that, and so on. Guys, I'll see you later on today. We're going to do a couple other videos, and then I'll see you tomorrow morning for Newswave.